If you're thinking about buying a Motorguide Xi3, don't buy it until you watch this video. So recently I purchased a Motorguide Xi3 and I love it, and there's a few things that I don't like about it. So let's start with the bad. The main primary thing that I really don't like about it is when you're in anchor mode and there is very little wind, it hunts a lot. And it wouldn't be so bad if it just hunted like on a low setting, but it goes medium to high. And so especially standing in my kayak, if I was to hit anchor mode and it gets off track a little bit, it could, and nearly did today, throw me out of the kayak just from too much initial thrust. So I wish there was a way they could, and maybe there is and I just haven't figured it out yet. I'm gonna look into it, but it's too much initial power in, trying to find its location back. Another negative, it's kind of loud. Now, when I say kind of loud, it's not like just incredibly loud and it scares off all the fish, but once you hit I think I counted 20 gears, air quotes there, 20 different speeds, and once you hit like 3 or 4 or 5, you can really hear the motor, and you're not going super fast, but you're going fast enough to, it's really about the speed that I like to go to, like run a crankbait or run a spinnerbait. It's about that speed for me. And so I'm not super impressed with how quiet it is, but when it's running like 1, 2, 3, shoot, I can't even hear it. So it's not just incredibly loud. When it pivots on top, you can hear it up above the water as well, but it's really not just like, oh my gosh, this is scaring away all the fish. As a matter of fact, I don't think I think I spooked the fish before the motor spooked the fish all day today. Deploying it and retracting it in a kayak, you really either need an incredibly stable kayak like I have that you can stand up in and press the lever down and pull it up, or you need to rig up some kind of contraption. And I've thought about rigging up a contraption, and I've seen like Fluke Master do it, and maybe a few others, and it works for them. I just have to figure out how to do it in my kayak, and right now I'm okay with the way I deploy it. So it's not like I have to change it immediately right now. But if I didn't have a very stable kayak, or it was hard for me to stand up in, then I would definitely need a way to deploy my trolling motor off the front of my kayak. Now, if you're buying it for a John boat or something like that, then shoot, you don't even need to worry about that. Let's move on to why I love it. First of all, it's spot lock. I have never fished with a trolling motor that had spot lock until now, and it's changing the way I fish. Holy cow. It's just, I can sit in a general area and fish that area without having to paddle, without having to mess with the trolling motor myself. The trolling motor does it all itself, and it's incredible. Another thing that I like is the wireless remote. I don't gotta have a foot pedal here. My kayak, I've got everything else in the floor. I didn't need something else in the floor, so I didn't have to worry about a foot pedal. You can actually, if you want a foot pedal, then you can actually buy a wireless one and connect it just like you would the remote. Another thing, in anchor mode, it doesn't keep, I was worried about it, that it would just keep spinning in circles and tighten up that cord and eventually rip the cords. Well, they thought through that, thank goodness. And once it goes so far, it will actually automatically turn around and readjust itself, so you don't got to worry about it wrapping its cords around and around and around itself. And that is so great that they thought of that, because that would be an incredible pain in the butt to deal with. So I'm pulling I've got a Nucanoe Unlimited, and that's a 12 and like 6-inch kayak or something. It's over 12 foot long. It's a big kayak, and it's got plenty of thrust. I traveled a long ways here, and it was flat and calm this morning, but I was doing 4.6 mile an hour. I topped out at 4.6, and it's loaded down pretty well. I've got a big heavy motor or battery in the back. I've got me, and then of course I've got the trolling motor and stuff, so it's not like it was just an empty kayak. That was loaded down a little bit, and it did just fine. That's awesome. I couldn't ask for, I mean, 4.5 mile an hour trolling motor on a kayak. That's awesome. Installation actually was really easy. The biggest thing was actually just mounting the mount to my kayak, but I love the design that Motorguide has with their quick removable little pins and everything, and it makes my life so much easier than what I was doing on my Frontier 12, which I had a trolling motor on the back, and it was just a bracket that I had to screw onto, basically clamp onto is a better word, I guess. And it took a lot longer. This is quick and easy, pop it on, go. I did rewire it, so I cut the wires and put a plug on it and ran the wiring to the back, so I can just plug it in and go instead of having to hook it up to the battery every time. And I would highly recommend that if you're any kind of handy. I'm not very, but I did have a great grandpa that taught me how to wire a little bit, and he loves doing it, so he helps me out anytime I need it anyways. But if you know somebody like that, or you are something like that, I would suggest rewiring it so you can plug and play and go. It's really a game changer. It's got bright buttons. I'm looking at it now, and the sun's glaring just on it just right where I can't really see the buttons very well, but once I turn a little bit, or once it hits in the shade for a second, I can see the buttons to what's engaged, and you know, if it's got power and that kind of stuff. And that's huge, because especially like on 1, 2, and 3, when you can't hear the motor going, sometimes you might be wondering, well, is it on, is it off? Well, you can look at those buttons and see, okay, my propeller's engaged. Now I can hit the remote, run it up or run it down, whatever you want to do. Or when you hit anchor mode, you know, the GPS signal, and there's a light for that flashes and stuff, and those buttons are awesome. The last thing that I'm going to talk about, and I promise this is the last thing, is actually when you're running a straight line, you can either run it to what I was used to without the GPS, and it just runs a straight line, and you know, if the wind blows you off track a little bit, it doesn't correct for you, it doesn't do anything. Or you can run it in a straight line with the GPS, and it locks onto a GPS direction, and that's the direction you go, and it'll automatically pivot back and forth and correct the direction you're going. And holy cow, that's awesome. I mean, to be able to like run down a bank, especially, instead of zigzagging like I used to, I can run a fairly straight line and just many minor corrections, and it fixes the problem, or it holds that line really well. I absolutely love that about it. I would not change that at all. Thank you guys for watching this Motorguide review for the Xi3. Like I said, it's worth every penny. I'll leave a link in the description down below for you to check it out. And as always, go check out another video. I've got a bunch of fishing videos if you're into fishing videos, and if you're watching a review on a Motorguide Xi3, more than likely you like fishing. So go check out that one that I've got right here. Otherwise, go live an awesome adventure.